Fortori about having me in the family, as it were, has been her daughter Tash, who wants more than anything else to grow up and be a companion in Doctor Who. So, that Uncle Neil could get Amy Pond to sign a postcard for her, even if she did write Karen Gillan on it. Incredible. I got more brownie points there. How do you balance something between being kid-friendly and too dark? I don't think that too dark doesn't mean kid-friendly. I think there are lots of things that you can do that aren't kid-friendly. Be dumb, not kid-friendly. Sort of just witter on vaguely, definitely not kid-friendly. Generally speaking, kids aren't huge fans of sex in books. I mean, they sort of go, oh, for God's sake. But too dark, for my money, has never been anything that I've ever worried about. This may be because I remember as a very, very small boy, hiding behind the sofa watching Doctor Who, age 3. But it probably goes back to Hansel and Gretel, which I heard on the BBC when I was about 4. I remember sitting in my grandmother's garden, listening to this story, and at the point where after the children's parents had taken them out into the woods to lose them, because there isn't enough food for the whole family. And the old lady has lured the children into her house. And she's locked Hansel. And she's force-feeding him to get him fat enough to eat. But he's fooling her by putting a bone through the bars, a bone, probably the bone of a dead child that he'd found on the floor. And he's putting it through the bars, and she keeps feeling the bone and not his finger, so she thinks he's still terribly, terribly thin. And poor Gretel is working as her slave. And then, at the point where she's going to kill Hansel, she's fired up the oven, and she tells Gretel to get the oven ready, and Gretel persuades her that she doesn't know how. And the witch leans into the oven, and the little girl pushes the old lady into the huge oven, where she is burned to death and roasted slowly. I thought, this is good. This is literature. And it's on the BBC, and it's even got songs. This is so good. And ever since then, age 4, I've never thought that there's any problem with the words too dark in children's literature. Last few questions and then we'll go on to something else. Do you feel that narrating your own audiobooks is an enhancement to your stories? Yes. Or would it detract the listener from creating their own interpretations of characters, e.g. intonation, reflection, sarcasm? I think you're always allowed not to listen to audiobooks. I will never force anybody to listen to any audiobooks, although if you don't listen to Lenny Henry reading a Nancy voice, you're not my friend. Which I only tell you because it came up over dinner tonight. I was like, no, and I was asked by my friend Jill Thompson, who's right here at the front, who drew Sandman and is wonderful. She was saying she only wanted to listen to my audiobooks if it was me doing them. And I said, no, you have to listen to Lenny Henry doing a Nancy voice. And part of that's because when I wrote it, I had Lenny's voice in my head. And part of it is because any book which I write that has 4 different little old Jamaican ladies in it is not going to be narrated by me. I'm good, but I'm not that good. What do you do when you get writer's block? I do 2 things. Either I grumble a lot, I go for a walk, and I do something else that's necessary, like try and order the spice rack in alphabetical order, because when you have spices out of alphabetical order, you know, somehow I can become incredibly important in her writers' world. And then once you've alphabetized the spice rack, and in the late Douglas Adams's words, taken all the baths you can possibly take that day, I go back to whatever the thing is that I'm having trouble with. And I do one of two things. I go, look, I'm stuck on it. Either I'm having a really bad day, and bad days just happen as a writer. They really do. There are magic days, there are bad days. There are days when every word you write drips from your fingers and glitters as it goes down like liquid diamonds, and the gods are humming beautiful songs at the end of every paragraph. And then there are days when it's as if you're typing through the worst migraine in the world, and it only exists between you and the page, and you can't remember how to do words, and you can't spell them, and everything is stupid and terrible and dead and awful. And bizarrely, those days are easy to fix. Because those days, you just write whatever you can on the bad day, and then you get up next day and you read it, and you go, oh, it's not that bad. I can fix that, delete that, move that around, fix that sentence, there we go, and you carry on. Because you discover, when you've been at the writing game for long enough, that while it normally happens about the point you're doing the copy edit, you've been sent the galleys, the book, into the paper form to go through and catch typos and fix things. And you can remember that there were those beautiful magic olden days. And you can remember that there were the days when your fingers might as well have been octopus tentacles made of pure pain. And you know there were days when you wrote and the gods sang choruses, and there are days when you did nothing but groan. And you know that's true, but you're reading it and the whole thing reads like it was written by the same person. And it's not like any bit seems particularly better or worse than the other, it's just the thing. So that bit, just the having the horrible days, that one is easy to push through. The other side of writer's block for me is just getting stuck. And I think the big problem with writer's block is that writers made it up because we're brilliant. And we love to impress people. And it sounds better than saying, I'm stuck. And also, if you say, I'm stuck on something, it implies that you can actually unstick yourself. It implies you can fix it. It implies that you probably did something wrong. Maybe you got the wrong character. Maybe the plot has gone off in a little odd direction. Maybe you just need to go earlier in the story and figure out what's wrong and come back through. Maybe it's a bigger and more interesting story than you thought it was. Maybe it's deeper. There are things you can do to fix it. And if you say, I'm stuck, that's all implicit. But if you say, I have writer's block, somebody up there did it to you. And it is unfixable, and it's magic. Writer's block, I can't write it, I have writer's block. And it's not true, gardeners don't get gardener's block. Cellists do not get cellist block. Shoe salesmen rarely get shoe salesman block. I come from the tradition of journalism. That's where I began. I was a journalist. And you weren't allowed things like writer's block because your copy had to be on the desk at 3 o'clock. And it had to be in the magazine. I remember once getting a phone call from an editor saying, just wanted to remind you that that book review is due in tomorrow. And I said, no, it's due on Tuesday. They said, yeah, it's Monday. And I looked around and I couldn't actually see the book. And I said, just hypothetically speaking, what would happen if I didn't turn it in? If you don't have it on your desk tomorrow at midday. He said, oh, that's easy. You'd have a blank page. I'd put your photograph, your name, your your address and your phone number, and I just tell people to contact you directly. Any possibility?